G'day guys and welcome. Today I'm going to be reviewing vFlyteAir's Piper Cherokee 140 Original version 3. This will be a no bullshit review, and by no bullshit review what I mean is that I will be critical of it as well as praising it. I've seen a few reviews of this aircraft now and they all tout its good points, but it has some issues and those issues really haven't been discussed, so I want to try and give the complete story for this plane so that you get the good and the bad, because it has some bad points, it has some good points, but you're not getting the whole story. So hopefully here you'll get the full story. So to that end, we're going to have a good look around the outside and inside of the plane to see how well it has been modeled and textured, and then take it for a flight starting from a cold and dark state to get some idea how it handles in that regard. So what's new in this version? With version 3 came a complete rebuild of this plane. They built it from the ground up again pretty much, and this was for X-Plane 11.3, as there was a lot of new features added with 11.3, and this plane wanted to take advantage of it. So some of these new features are minor and some of them are pretty major. I'll run through a few of them with you now. It has new F-mod sounds. It's got a pop-out kneeboard for some options like refueling and such. If you're into virtual reality, it has been optimized for VR. There are some new PBR textures for the interior. A pretty major change is that it now has an IFR panel configuration. It used to be VFR only, but now you get a GPS, autopilot, that sort of stuff as well, should you wish to have it. Coming along with this is automatic support for Reality XP's GTN 650 and GNS 430 plugins, which is very cool if you happen to own those products. Integrated support for the Avatar plugin also happens. I don't use it, but plenty of people do, and that's a nice feature to have. Another change that has happened with version 3 is an improved flight model, and such things are always welcome in GA planes. That pretty much takes care of most of the new features. This plane is modeled on a real-life Cherokee 140 that resides in Texas. This model comes with the livery that you see right here, as well as 9 other liveries, which I will show up on the screen for you right now. There are 3 other American liveries. I'm quite partial to this one. 1 Smurf Blue Canadian livery, 2 German liveries. I kind of like the first one, but not too fussed on the second. 2 English liveries, both of which aren't too bad. Second one's pretty flashy. And 1 Finnish livery. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a spin around the outside of this plane and have a look and see how well they've modelled it. Like most vFlyteAir products, a lot of attention to detail has gone into the model. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's pretty fantastic. I would give it an 8 out of 10. That rotating beacon, which you can see as we come around the back, looks a little cheesy and a little plasticky, but doesn't look too bad once it's actually lit up. But overall, it's, as you can see, a very solid, faithful representation of the plane, with nice attention to detail. So no complaints there. Solid 8 out of 10. Very attractive looking plane. Okay, so the model's pretty cool. What about the textures? Let's get up close and personal and have a look. As you can see, nice attention to detail as we get up close. You see all the little paint chips there over the wheel covers, along the propeller blades, little chips of paint on the outside. You have a look down underneath it, you can see like oil and grease and stuff, you know, marks, that sort of stuff. At the fill-up points here, you can actually read the labels that are on the wing. Normally on planes you wouldn't. The textures would be such low quality that you would not be able to read what was written there. The screws, as you can see, are very clear, nice and detailed. It's very high quality work that's going into the wings there. On the wing edge here, you can see nice little detail that they've added. Bug splatter and paint chips, the kind of things that you get from the plane moving through the air and hitting things. You don't see that on a lot of work, so props to them for that. Very well done. What we see here is another fine example of the textures being of such high quality that you can read the labels on the plane when you zoom in on them. Even stuff like Coronado planes, which pride themselves on their texturing and their modeling, quite often aren't quite to this fidelity. If we zoom in here on the registration, you can see that all of the lines are crisp and clear with no jagged lines. Quite often on some planes you'll zoom in and you'll see like the jagged lines. It's very unattractive. This is a really good job. On the tail, once again, we can see labels that we can read. The screws, which you might not be able to make out in the video, in the sim, looking at them are just like looking at screws. They're perfect. We have, once again, scuff marks and marks from bugs hitting the tail. So, nice attention to detail. Look, overall, the texturing on this plane is of a very high quality. I would give it an 8 out of 10, maybe even a 9. Like, it's really well done. The outside is excellent. So, let's take a look at the inside now, shall we? So, let's take a gander in here, shall we? The material on those seats is superb. Like, that texturing is good. The PBR's obviously doing its job in the interior. Very nice. Just looking on the dash, we can see some scuff marks to go with the age of the plane. The textures are nice and crisp and clear, so we read the checklists and stuff. That leather looks awesome. Just like the outside of the plane, the interior modelling is of a really high calibre. Looking at photographs of the actual plane that this was modelled on and the dash in front of us, it's a very faithful reproduction, with the exception of the hood that goes over the top of the instruments here. That doesn't quite look right. That, however, is just a minor nitpick. You can see most stuff is very, very good. Looks like you would expect. Some jagged edges on the seatbelt, but once again, that's just a minor nitpick. You know, if we have a look up here at the center console, awesome job with the texturing. All the rust up there adds to the age of the plane. The trim handle looks right. Overall, a superb job on the modelling and texture on the inside. Overall, I'd give the interior modelling a 7 out of 10 and the texturing an 8 out of 10. Overall, awesome job. Okay, when it comes to the settings that come with the plane, that's accessible here on our little kneeboard. Here you can do things like add fuel, which you do up here. You can also switch between VFR and IFR panels, which I'll go into a little bit more detail about soon. You can also add ground elements, remove the interior glass so as to save on FPS, add a co-pilot to the views. Basically, this is where all your settings are done. It's neat. It's kind of cool. Okay, so this is our standard VFR configuration that it comes with. As you can see, we have a transponder, some radios, bare basics that you need in order to fly. That's it. Nothing fancy. If you look at the bottom left of the screen, you can see we have our panel options, where we can switch between the original VFR panel, which we're in, or GPS and autopilot, the IFR, which we'll switch to right now. This gives us access to a GPS, a fancy new transponder, and an autopilot. If you own Reality XP's GTN 650 or GNS 430, you can also add them here, which I shall do right here because I have the GTN 650. There we go, and as you can see, it's accurately modelled in the plane, all set up, ready to go once it's switched on. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so let's get this plane started, shall we? Rotating beacon on. Mixture full rich. Throttle cracked. Alright, we'll switch the battery on and give it a bit of prime. Wait, do I actually have the fuel turned on? Yes, I do. Left tank. Good. One more squirt of juice. Magnetos to both, and then start. Clear prop, etc, etc. Alright, now we're in action. Alrighty, let's drop our revs down to about 1000. Lean things out a little bit for the taxi. Don't want to foul those plugs. A little bit of carb heat. There we go. Alright, warm up our engines. Alright, next, avionics. Switch those on. GTN 650 is now coming online. We're going to land at Arlington Municipal Airport, which is just a stone's throw away. So I'm going to plot a direct route in the GPS, just to give me some idea where I should be heading, at least in general. At this point, I should probably point out that that whole startup procedure that we went through, with the priming of the engine, leaning for taxi, adding some carb heat, all of that sort of stuff was completely superfluous, and that's one of the issues that this plane has, and I'll explain that in more detail once we get up in the air and are stable in a cruise. Okay, let's check our temp gauges and such and make sure everything's ready to rock and roll. All looks good to me. No clowns to the left of me, no jokers to the right. Alright, let's go. Okay, carb heat back in, we don't want that on. Parking brake released. It'll take a bit of effort to get through this thick grass here to get onto the grass landing strip. Alrighty, here we go. Alright, lined up, let's do our run-up check. Revs to 2000. Yep, magneto's good. Next magneto. Also good. Drop to idle. Still have power. Alrighty. I should point out that the run-up was also superfluous, something which I will also go into detail with once we're up in the air. I'll explain some more of the bad points about this plane. Alright, time to take off. Fixtures full forward. I have no flaps. Trim is set. This is pretty cool. Feels very real. Oh, bumping. Alright, we're taking off. Ooh. A lot of power there. Had to pull up a little bit early. I probably should have used some flaps on that. This isn't all that powerful a plane. And with obstacles to clear, that close, really pushed it there. I'm surprised I didn't slam into anything. Oh well, we're alive. We're alive. Alright, we'll begin a gentle turn towards Arlington Municipal Airport. Whilst we're in the climb, we're only at 500 feet. We're not going to go too high today, because Arlington's like just over there. So I don't want to go too high, otherwise I've got too far to come down. Here I'll climb for just a little bit more. Alright, we're nearing 1,000 feet. I have to say the flight dynamics in this are superb. It feels really authentic. Like, it really does feel like you're in an old bucket of bolts plane with not a lot of power hurtling through the air. Of all the GA planes that I've flown in X-Plane, this to me feels probably one of the more authentic, if not the most authentic. It's been said by people who have flown real-life Cherokee 140s and who have flown this particular plane in the sim that it's very accurate, like, you know, in the 90-odd% accuracy, and that the limitations that it has are more limitations to do with the X-Plane sim than it does to do with the flight models. So I think that's a really good indicator of the quality of the flight dynamics that this plane has. Alright, we'll cruise at around about this altitude, around 1,500 feet, give or take a couple hundred feet. And those buildings just down the left of the engine cowling that you can see, those are the hangars that are at Arlington Municipal Airport, and that is where we want to land, so we're here already. That's my GPS also tells me. So I don't want to land yet. I'll land very soon. We got here very quickly. I'm just going to continue to take a little bit of a spin so that I can explain some more about the plane. Maybe a little bit of the bad points, eh? Okay, like I said at the beginning, this is a no bullshit review, and I've given this plane a lot of praise so far, but there are some negative points too, and I'm going to have to address them. First of all, and some might consider this to be minor, is where the hell is the checklist? I mean, for real, where is the checklist? An inbuilt checklist, even though it's a small quality of life thing. Oh, I better close this up. I shouldn't be going around with the storm window open. That's a lot more quieter. Alright, let's have another go. So, the checklist. Like, as I said, some might say it is a little thing, but all quality payware comes with an inbuilt checklist these days. It's a quality of life thing. It really helps if you have no idea what you're doing with flying a plane, especially a new plane. You don't have to look outside into manuals to see what's going on. You can just do what real pilots do. Open up their checklist inside the cockpit. Admittedly, checklist is it's a niggly point. It's something that I think should be included, but it's not a deal breaker or anything. But there are some things that this plane is missing that it is a real shame that it is missing, especially considering with how good the other aspects of it are. And what I'm talking about here are some of the things that are not modelled, that high fidelity GA sim planes really should have modelled. Okay, so what do I mean by this? If you recall, I said most of the things I did in the startup sequence were superfluous, that I didn't need to do them. And that's the truth. And it makes this plane sim-light rather than a simulation. It's got the in-air stuff correct, but it's missing out on all the preparatory stuff that you would do on the ground, as well as some of the things that would account in the air as well. For example, fueling isn't really modelled properly. When it comes to starting the plane, it doesn't matter whether you have primed your engine, not primed your engine, flooded your engine, which you can't do by the way, whether you're trying to start it in really hot weather, like say 35 degrees Celsius, or whether you're trying to start it in really cold weather, like minus 30 degrees Celsius, where it's freaking freezing. It makes absolutely no difference. All you need to do to start this plane is just make sure that your fuel's on, make sure that the magnetos are set to both, and hit the start button. And no matter what the conditions, it will start first time, every time, which is a real disappointment. I tested this by starting it in minus 30 degrees Celsius weather and plus 30 degrees Celsius weather. There was no difference. I tried to flood the engine. It was impossible to flood. Basically, the fueling doesn't make a difference. The prime button that you saw me priming with, it's just there for looks. You don't have to use it. It has no effect whatsoever. It's not hooked up to the sim at all. And that's a real shame. The carburetor heat lever that you saw me pull earlier to stop the carb icing, that also isn't actually connected to anything and isn't modelled into the sim. It's just another knob that you can twiddle that does absolutely nothing. I tested this by, once again, going to minus 30 degrees Celsius weather, and the carburetor would not ice. It just wouldn't. If you sit there and compare that to, say, Just Flight's Duchess 76 model, that thing in cold weather will start icing over like in under a minute. So yeah, basically another missed opportunity, another non-functional button to twiddle, which for something that's of such a high quality in other areas, it's a letdown. It really is a letdown. In addition to knobs that you can twiddle and fiddle with that do absolutely nothing, there are a few other things that the sim misses that makes it sim light rather than an accurate simulation of the Cherokee 140. And I'll go into these just as we enter the pattern here to land at Arlington Municipal Airport. Okay, first of all, you can't foul your plugs. It doesn't matter how poorly you operate your plane on the ground, it's not going to happen. I tested this by having the plane in idle with full rich mixture, let it run for half an hour, and plugs went foul. Didn't miss a beat. engine didn't miss a beat, which makes the whole run-up test that you would normally do completely superfluous, because your magnetos aren't going to have any issues at all with plugs that aren't fouled. So once again, you know, it's a procedure that you go through that you don't have to go through. It's just twiddle your thumbs, go through the motion, doesn't really have an effect on the sim, and that is very disappointing. Again, of course, this also means that there is no need to lean the plane for taxi, because you're not going to fail your plugs. So there's another procedure that in a simulation you would try to do that is missing from this otherwise awesome simulation of a Cherokee 140. So even though this plane has an awesome flight model and is really fun to fly in the air, it's missing some really key stuff that's needed to make it go from just being a bit of a thing you have a bit of fun in to something that's a serious simulation. You know, basically it's a sim-light plane is what I'm trying to say, which is a shame because other aspects of it are just like bang on the money. Of course, vFlyteAir never claimed that it had any of these things, so you know, there's no false advertising or anything like that. It's just disappointing, that's all, to see these things missing when other GA aircraft that are marketed towards us have these things. Other GA aircraft that don't fly as well or as accurately as what this does. So it's just, it's a missed opportunity is what I'm trying to say. It's a missed opportunity. It's still a fun plane, but it could have been so much more. Alright, I am on base now, and in a couple of moments I'm going to be turning final and things are going to get a little bit busy, so I'm going to shut up for now and concentrate on flying the plane so that I don't smash it and make a complete fool of myself. Once I land, I'll give a bit of an overall summary of what I think, give it a score out of 10, and give you my opinion on whether I think you should buy it or not buy it. As in, you know, what people is it for and what people is it not for. I'll leave a link in the description to the summary in case you, for some reason, want to skip this landing and just get straight to the information. Alrighty, I am now on final, so time to get the mind on the job, because I am landing an unfamiliar plane. Alrighty, try and get ourselves lined up a little bit better. Probably a little high. There's plenty of runway. Yeah, tiny bit high. Off to the left a bit more. Straighten her up. I need a bit less speed. Alrighty, wish me luck. Alright, pull back. Floats a bit. Alright, we're down. A little hard, but not too bad. Not too bad. Overall, the plane is a good plane. I definitely do not regret purchasing it. The flight model is fantastic. For a simulation of a Cherokee 140, once this thing is in the air, it's unbeatable. There's nothing better on an X-plane. So if you're after a Piper Cherokee 140 simulator, this is probably the best that there is on offer. The modeling of the plane and the textures of the plane, both inside and out, are phenomenal. Like, just a really good job done there. The plane has really good plug-in support. It has AviTab support. It has XP Reality GPS support. And although I haven't mentioned it yet, it also has support for the LibRain plugin, which means you get really cool rain effects on the windshield if you happen to be flying where there's some precipitation. So all of this is really good. Another good thing that this plane has, which I haven't mentioned yet either, is that the circuit breakers are all modelled. So, you know, if you want to model a failure, like say radio failure, for instance, just off the top of my head, you can pop that circuit breaker and the radios will fail. So this is something that should be in every serious sim of a plane, I think, and this has it, so that's good. And yet, with all the awesome stuff that this plane has, it's somewhat marred by the things that it's missing. You know, like the fueling system, how that's not modeled correctly, how you can't fail your plugs or have vapor locks, how the carb heat does nothing. You know, these things aren't little things, they're things that really should be part of a serious simulation. So if this was going to be a serious simulation of a Cherokee 140, I would want to see those things in there, and it's not. So overall, a score out of 10. I would probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's better than a 7. I don't think it's as good as an 8, so I'm going to have to go 7.5. It would have got a 9 had it included all those systems that it's missing that I mentioned. So yeah, basically it's a great plane with a few missed opportunities. So should you buy it? Is this plane for you? Well, if you just want something that simulates flight dynamics and does that very well, you know, a Piper Cherokee that does that well, this is the best. You're not going to get any better. So yeah, that's great. If you want something that is a complete sim, that has all the systems as well as the flight dynamics, then I wouldn't suggest this plane for you, because it's missing what I would consider to be core elements of that. But look, its price isn't bad. What it offers for that price is very good. It's not a bad buy. I think it's one of the better GA aircraft on the market for X-Plane, and it's certainly worth a buy if you're not after a 100% full dead-on simulator of a Cherokee 140. And with that, I'll wish you all a fond adieu. Thank you for tuning in and watching. I hope it was informative. If you have any comments, please whack them down in the comments section. Please like, please subscribe, because when that happens, it encourages me to make more stuff and to make better stuff. So until next time, take care.